where'd you find me here, waiting for you? Across the multiverse we collide. It's extraterrestrial, our love. Across the multiverse, you and I.
Backboneverse, welcome back to the journey through the Arrowverse. I am your host, Logan Keithie, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Keithie Langston. How you doing tonight?
What's up?
Well, you've already failed this pod. I'm just kidding.
I tried.
But yeah, we're here for episode 6 of the pod, but we are going to start a new way of kind of doing things just to kind of expedite our way through this journey. We are going to start doing 2 episodes of the show per episode of the podcast. So we will be covering episodes 6 and 7 of season 1, Legacies and Muse of Fire, I believe is the second one's name. I'm going to be running through the first episode, Legacies, and then I'll pass it off to Keith to kind of run us through episode number 7. Obviously, we'll kind of do it the same way we've been doing. I'll run through a few scenes, ask what Keith thought, but obviously during the second episode, we'll do it kind of the other way around. We will rate the episode after we get through this first one, and then we will rate the second one once we get through that, obviously. And then we'll do kind of some combined awards at the end, kind of who we thought the overall MVP of both episodes kind of were and stuff like that. So we will dive straight into Legacies. We start with 3 masked robbers. They are wearing masks that have the playing cards. One has ace, one has king, and one has jack. They break into Starling Trust Bank and knock out the manager when he says he doesn't have the combination for the vault. One of the customers, an off-duty police officer named Stan Washington, goes for his concealed weapon. One of the hostages warns him against it, and one of the robbers, the guy wearing the ace mask, hears them talking, and then he shoots Stan several times before the leader, the guy wearing the king mask, stops him. The police arrive, and then Detective Lucas orders the robbers to surrender. They send all of the hostages out wearing similar card face masks. And by the time the police struggle past the crowd, they discover the robbers have tunneled through the floor of the vault. Down in the tunnels, the one wearing the king mask tells the ace that they do not kill in any situation like this and to keep his head straight. Oliver and John are then sparring in the quiver that Keithie has named it. And Oliver easily takes John down repeatedly. He explains that a man named Yao Fei, so we finally get the archer's name. We kind of talked about it in the last episode, but we officially get him named here. Yao Fei had taught him, but refuses to give John any more detail about the island. Oliver then brings up the file on another one of the men on his father's list, Scott Morgan. Scott has been cutting off the power to the poor, but John points out that winter won't be for another month. He suggests that Oliver go after the bank robbers, nicknamed the Royal Flush Gang. However, Oliver says that he doesn't see the point in going after street criminals. John suggests that Oliver think beyond the men on Robert's list, but Oliver insists that he needs to keep his promise to his father so that he didn't die in vain. John says that Oliver has a narrow definition of being a hero, and Oliver insists that he is not a hero. So what did you think of kind of our introduction to the Royal Flush Gang, and then Oliver and John kind of sparring here a little bit?
I thought it was fun. I mean, the entrance of the gang is kind of cool. The Royal Flush Gang, just kind of funny. Apparently, they are an actual criminal group from the DC Comics that have come into conflict with numerous DC superheroes. I don't know if necessarily it's this family, as we'll see later on, but I mean, there is a Royal Flush Gang in the DC Comics. But pretty interesting opening. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, you get an action sequence like right off the bat, which is kind of cool. And then also just the sparring between John Diggle and Oliver is good always, because Oliver kind of schools him right away, and he's like, "Not today, Satan." At one point, he says like something. He's like, "Are you going to teach me?" Blah blah blah. And he goes, "Not today." After he like disarms him, which I thought was kind of cool. So And I thank you very much for calling it the Quiver. I really appreciate that. So much love to you for using my tagline here. So thank you.
I'll do that to the best of my remembrance. At least,
I won't yell at you if you forget. It's okay. They don't call it that, so that's fine. So
but yeah, there's got to be nothing more emasculating than know that you're like a trained combat fighter and just getting absolutely dominated by this rich boy that you can't imagine has any training whatsoever. But
exactly,
he definitely schools him. But we go from there. We go back to the island. We see him. We see Oliver in the cave that Yao Fei kind of trapped him in previous episode. He burns blank pages from his father's journal to keep the fire going. As he weakens from lack of food and water, Oliver starts to hallucinate and see his father's ghost.
Yes.
We then come back to the present. We go to the legal office. Joanna and Laurel learn that their largest donor, Stag Industries, has stopped donating to the firm. Tommy comes in and offers to fly Laurel out of town to Coast City for the weekend. She wonders why he's coming on so strong, and Tommy explains that he wanted to follow up on his offer to let her learn more about him. Laurel then says that they've lost their funding and she has more important things to think about, and Tommy realizes that right now is probably not a good time. We then go to the Queen Manor. Thea and Oliver are talking, and she points out that their mother has been down since Walter has left suddenly for a business trip in Melbourne. Moira then comes in and tells them that she's invited Janice Bowen and her son Carter to have brunch with them. Carter was in Oliver's high school and was the perfect student that Moira always used to compare Oliver to, annoyingly, of course. Oliver and Thea then both try to get out of the brunch, but Moira insists, and they reluctantly give in and say that they'll attend. Diggle then calls Oliver to tell them that Scott just tried to kill himself and possibly in fear of the Hood coming after him. Oliver says he'll be right to Starling General Hospital. And then we have Oliver start to head out. Tommy arrives and suggests that they take his new car for a spin. Oliver passes, saying something important has come up, and leaves. Thea has overheard the conversation and offers to listen if Tommy has something he wants to discuss. Without going into specifics, Tommy says he's truly interested in a certain woman, and he doesn't think the direct approach would work for telling her his feelings. Thea suggests that he find out what the woman is interested in, and then becomes interested in it himself. And Tommy kind of gets an idea off of that. As he leaves, he thanks Thea for help. So, what did you think of this conversation and kind of the couple scenes before that?
I was trying to. Isn't it Thea who spoils to Oliver in the nightclub about Laurel and Tommy?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, I'm like, does she not know that he's in love with Laurel? Or I guess maybe, I don't know.
It definitely gets confusing later for sure.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird. I thought that was just odd, but I'm going to chalk it up to that, like, Thea was drunk. Maybe she didn't realize. I don't know what the case is. She's probably still drunk. Who knows? Not a bad conversation. Really quickly, I wanted to bring up that when Laurel's talking about them losing their investor Stag Industries, that's actually Simon Stagg, who does make an appearance in The Flash later on. He's actually played by the great William Sadler. But
there you go.
Yes, he's an investor. He's always been like an investor in the DC Comics, and he was head of Stag Enterprises. Excuse me. I don't think he's ever really been a villain. I feel like he's just kind of like he's just like kind of a. He says in here he's the unscrupulous owner of and CEO of Stag Enterprises. I didn't know if he was necessarily always considered a villain, but I don't think he's a villain really in at least this universe here. So but that was I just want to say that. And then also Tommy comes in and says he wants to take her away to Coast City, and Coast City is actually the residence of the Green Lantern Hal Jordan. So they're just dropping some things here about other cities. We get a Keystone City mentioned later on, which happens to be the home of the Flash and Wally West, who is the third Flash. So yeah, there's just this. It's good because they're doing a little bit of world building in the DC universe here. So kind of good on this.
Yeah, it seems like this one's like ripe with like little Easter eggs. I definitely noticed a few of those
Yep.
throughout. But yeah, definitely interesting to see him kind of confide in Thea. Obviously, she ends up apparently taking that whole conversation the wrong way. So we'll get into that later. We then go to Oliver. He arrives at the hospital. John tells him that Morgan isn't here. The paramedics are transferring the cop that got shot, who is in a coma. His wife, Jana, comes in and thanks John for financing the necessary treatment for her husband. And John tells her to thank Oliver since he is the one paying the bills. Once she leaves, John warns Oliver that that he's the kind of man who doesn't walk away from someone that needs help. Oliver immediately agrees and tells John that they're going after the bank robbers. They go to the hideout and examine the video surveillance of the bank robbery. They know that Ace was a violent one who shot Stan. Ace is wearing a ring on the hand he used to slap the bank manager, and Oliver figures that he can get the impression from evidence lockup at the station. That night, he breaks in, slips by the police, and downloads the file with the photos. So what did you think of this scene?
First question is, what was the doctor in? I mean, what was the police officer in? What's he in? He's in what? He's in a coma.
Oh yeah, he's in a coma. That's right. That's right.
No, but I thought it was good. I like that he kind of calls Diggle kind of calls Ollie out and is like, this is you went over my head. He went over his head and basically was like, no, this is what we're gonna do this week, buddy. We're gonna go after cop killers, and that's what we're gonna do. So I kind of like that little, no pun intended, dig, but that little dig at Oliver, like this is the mission. We're not just gonna go after people in your little black book. We're gonna be going after real crime. So
yeah, we're not gonna just do what you want to do.
We're not gonna do what you want to do.
Yeah, they want Diggle kind of wants them to do right, just based on
do right by this family,
kind of what's going on around the city, and obviously focus on the book as well. But we go from there. The next day, Laurel discovers that Tommy is already at the office talking to Joanna. He informs them that his company, the Merlin Global Group, wants to sponsor a charity fundraiser to keep CNRI going. Laurel refuses, but Joanna draws her to the side and explains that they need the money, and she doesn't care why Tommy is doing it. Laurel reluctantly thanks Tommy for the fundraiser, with some prodding from Joanna, obviously. Oliver then reviews the photos from the scene and confirms that an impression of the ring, and it's from Larchmont High School. Checking the records, he confirms that one student, Kyle Reston, disappeared 5 years ago, right before his senior year. His family, his father, his mother, and his younger brother all disappeared at the same time, completely off the grid. After checking the records of the robbery, Oliver confirms that one more hostage left the bank that was inside, meaning that the female robber came out with the hostages. As he goes over the evidence, Oliver realizes that he's late for the brunch and heads out. He goes to the manor just in time and makes small talk with Janice and Carter. Carter is talking about his career as a doctor and research scientist, and Oliver comments that Carter is the real hero around here. And he even makes like a Dr. Oz joke. And obviously Oliver hasn't been around in 5 years and doesn't get that. But it's obviously talking about the Dr. Oz show. He became famous, I guess, in the time period between when Oliver went away and obviously current day where we're at now. So I thought that was a pretty funny little quip. We then go to Starling City. The Royal Flush Gang is preparing to rob another bank. Derek tells his son Kyle not to shoot anyone. After Carter, we go back to the manor. After Carter boasts about his job, Janice asks Oliver what he's going to do now that he's back, and he says he's going to start running a nightclub. John comes in and whispers to Oliver that the robbers have hit another bank. Oliver gives his regards and says he has to deal with a liquor dealer and goes out to the hallway. As he and John discuss how the robbers will probably escape via the sewers again, Moira comes out to ask her son where he's going, and he avoids answering her questions and leaves. So before we get to the next few scenes, what did you think of Oliver kind of discovering who we're dealing with, Tommy obviously putting up the money to help Laurel, and then this kind of awkward dinner or brunch with the Carter and Janice.
So the first thing off the bat is that Ace is named Kyle. The actor is actually Kyle Schmidt, who was kind of funny. He plays a guy named Kyle. It's like Tony Danza always playing a character named Tony. But Schmidt actually marries Katie Lotz, who ends up playing Sarah Lance. So just kind of a little in-universe connection here. Yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff. He's a pretty good, well-known character actor. And actually, he's in a show that I love, Being Human, which is like one of the, and he was a big character in that. So no, he's a pretty good working actor. It's always like it's kind of foreshadowing with the, all right, guys, one last score. It's always going to get messed up that way, which is kind of what ends up happening. It's typical, like it's a TV trope of foreshadowing, like one last score, one more job, that kind of thing. I'm 3 days to retirement, and then like something happens. So it's when I hear that, I'm like, here we go. This is coming again. But that's not too bad. Tommy doing the, what's funny is when we had talked about like doing group awards, actually for both of these episodes, Tommy's not like a douche. Like he's actually really kind of on point for these two. Is like, so he's not an LVP, and he's not even a candidate in my opinion for the LVP, because I think he's just doing like he seems like he's trying to be a good guy in this episode. And I kind of like that. That was I like that. I thought that was really good. So him wanting to do a fundraiser for the law firm there, the free law clinic, I think is great. And it shows that he obviously cares deeply for Laurel. And then obviously the brunch is just a total disaster. It was going to be a total disaster to begin with, because neither Thea nor Ollie want to be involved. I guess this guy Carter Bowen later ends up getting hired and cast as Bruce Wayne in Batwoman, the TV show, which I don't think we're watching that. I don't think we are. But
you mean Batgirl?
No, Batwoman.
Is it Batwoman? Okay. Yeah.
Which I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna be watching that, because I don't know if that has any crossover really with this. It might. We may have to watch. I don't know. We'll keep it on in our heads. But yeah, so he ends up getting cast later on as Bruce Wayne / Batman in Batwoman, which is kind of funny. So yeah, more just recasting on this, I guess. But yeah, good overall.
Yeah, I do think they do a original crossover with that. I think like when she gets introduced, they do like she's in like that whatever season that is crossover episode. But
yeah,
I think they do kind of keep it separate post that. But yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there. That's forever away, so we don't need to worry about that yet. But that is interesting. But we go from there. We go to the Reston family. They escape into the sewers beneath the bank. The police arrive, and Kyle opens fire. Officer Hilton and his men return fire. The Hood arrives and shoots the bag away from the robbers. The Restons retreat, and Oliver pins the bag to the floor with a trick arrow. As the bank robbers escape, the police spot the Hood and tell him to halt. The Hood shoots out a fuse box and hides in the shadows as the police run by. That night, the Restons try to work out what to do next. Derek wants to leave for Mexico, but Teddy says that they don't have enough money yet to survive. An angry Kyle then says they should stick to the plan and get enough money so that they are set for life. And Derek reluctantly agrees that they do one more job that will put them over the top. Now that they have identified Kyle, Oliver and John meet with Felicity Smoke at Queen Consolidated and ask her to do a background check on Derek. She confirms that Derek worked at Queen Industrial Incorporated in Starling City for 15 years. When Robert Queen closed it in 2007 and outsourced production to China, Derek was out of a job. Derek was the foreman at the factory, but since Robert used legal loopholes to make sure that he didn't have to pay severance packages to the employees, Derek had absolutely nothing to his name from that point. Robert points out that he begged Oliver to survive and tells him, we go to the island, and Robert points out that he begged Oliver to survive and tells him to kill himself here. And now if he can't keep on living, disgusted that his sacrifice has been rendered meaningless, Robert gives Oliver the gun. This is obviously all a hallucination. When Oliver insists that he's doomed to slow starvation, Robert says that he can survive. His son disagrees and puts the gun to his head, and then we kind of shoot back to the present. Oliver goes to the bar where the factory workers used to drink, and John goes after him. John insists that what happened isn't Oliver's fault, but Oliver says that it was his father's father that ruined them, and that he has to go give the family a chance. We then go to Tommy and Laurel. They plan the fundraiser. Laurel asks why he's coming after her. Tommy talks about how he recently picked up a girl and went back to her place, only to realize that he had been there just 2 years earlier. He left and remembered how he never forgot the time that he woke up next to Laurel, and that was way more fun. Yes. So what did you think of these few scenes? Kind of the family deciding that they wanted to do one more hit. Oliver and John obviously go into Felicity, and then Tommy and all that.
I mean, we get a little Felicity, which sucks because obviously I collectively, I think everybody loves Felicity. I think so. You know, I keep forgetting how fast she gets involved, and I guess it's not as fast as I thought. I felt like it was really fast, but then again, we're only 6 episodes in, so maybe. But no, it's good. I mean, you start to get her involved and with certain things, and she's real smart, so she catches on real quick. But then. Yeah, like I said, the family agreeing to do one more hit is always going to be foreshadowing. And then it's funny, Tommy, like I kind of chuckled when he goes, I went home with this girl and I go into her house and I realized I've been here before. I'm like, that's really funny. And the fact that she didn't remember that he was there either is like, wow. You know, like that was just kind of funny. So, or at least he didn't say that she remembered him, which is obvious, you know, like, so yeah, no, good couple scenes here overall. I think that, you know, it shows again. It's Tommy. A lot of character development for Tommy this episode because showing that he enjoys waking up next to Laurel. He enjoys being with Laurel, which is exactly what you would want in that kind of relationship. So good stuff.
I'd like to think that Tommy banged like the girl's roommate or something like that, or he like banged,
really funny
banged some other girl that lived there or something like that.
Yeah, that would be funny if he bangs the girl and he realizes, oh wait, this is the girl that lived, like almost like he went to a college dorm and he banged the girl that lived in 2C, and then the following year he banged the girl that lived in 2C. Like he just keeps banging the college freshman that lives in 2C.
I'd like to think it was something kind of ironic like that, like it was like a roommate or somebody who had previously lived there or something like that. And she probably just didn't call him out because it was like, hey, this guy's rich. If he falls in love with me, then cool. And all that. So we go from there. Derek's in the bar that Oliver goes to. He is playing poker. Oliver sits down and explains that his father used to bring him here when he was a child. Derek seems kind of unimpressed with that, points out that Robert kept the truth about the shutdown right up until it occurred and lied about how the factory would save Starling City, or stay in Starling City, I should say. Oliver says that the people are hurt when they make wrong choices, but there is always one moment when they could turn it around and do the right thing. He offers Derek a job, but Derek refuses, saying that he doesn't want charity from the son of the man who screwed him over. Oliver gives Derek a business card in case he changes his mind and points out that they're both dealing with the consequences of Robert's decisions. However, now whatever happens is on the two of them. As he leaves, he secretly puts a bug in Derek's jacket pocket so he can kind of figure out what they're doing from here. He returns to the quiver, listens in as the Restons plan the next robbery. He realizes that the family is going to go ahead with the robbery and tells John that he's going to take them down. That night, Oliver and John arrive at the fundraiser. While Oliver tells John about his plan to slip away, Laurel comes in and Tommy compliments her on her dress. He then talks to Thea and finally tells her that Laurel is the woman he's been asking advice about. Shocked and upset, Thea watches as Tommy goes over to Laurel. Carter then comes in and starts talking about himself and then invites Laurel to have a drink with him and maybe even a dance. She goes off with him and Tommy watches, unhappy with how things are working out. Oliver goes over to Moira at the bar and apologizes for leaving at brunch. Disappointed, Moira says that they always had a connection and she knew what her son was thinking way back when, before the island and all that. However, now he isn't interested in being with her or even telling her the truth. As Oliver considers telling her the truth, John comes over and tells him that he's heard the Restons are going for their next bank, and then Oliver tells his mother that he has to go and tries to apologize, but she basically says, "Fuck you, just go ahead and leave." Yeah. So what did you think of Derek and Oliver's conversation and then this party kind of situation before we get to the big bank robbery?
I kind of liked the conversation. I mean, him giving him a second chance, even though, he almost kills a cop, like him still giving him a second chance. I kind of like that. Telling him, agreeing that, my dad did you dirty and I'm trying to give you an opportunity to set it straight. I thought it was kind of odd with Derek being like, I don't need your charity. Like, it's not charity, bro. It's a job. I'm offering you a job because you got fucked out of the last job. Like that, I just kind of was like, okay, whatever. So he doesn't want to go straight. He wants to just do this one last job to set them up for life, which, I mean, that's the mentality of a criminal. They don't want to go straight. They like being, dastardly, so to speak. So, yeah. And then I like that this episode and the next episode, like Maura and Thea kind of call Ollie out on his shit almost. So it's kind of good. I do like that. So, but again, just continuing on with this narrative that he's changed and all that. And it's good because Maura kind of says something in the next episode, which is great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like they do call him out on his shit, but she does kind of come to understand that maybe
come to understand at the end.
May come to understand that maybe he's not exactly the same person he was when he left. So,
right.
We then go to the bank robbery. We have Kyle and Derek break in. They kind of chloroform or kind of put something over the guards' mouths, kind of render them unconscious. They blast open the vault door. As they start to take the money, they hear somebody moving outside. Kyle goes to investigate, and the Hood fires at him, but the robber has a riot shield and is ready for him this time. The two men then exchange shots, and Kyle's bulletproof vest protects him from an arrow to the chest. The guard then wakes up and grabs a shotgun and prepares to open fire. Meanwhile, Derek has heard the gunshots and comes out to investigate. The Hood shoots the gun out of his hand, and the guard prepares to shoot Kyle. Seeing his son in danger, Derek leaps in front of Kyle, taking the shotgun blast meant for his son. The Hood tells the guard to call for an ambulance and then turns to Derek. Derek insists that none of it is Kyle's fault and that he was the one who turned his son into a criminal. Oliver pulls the trigger, but nothing happens. Then we go back to the island. Oliver pulls the trigger of the gun that he has, and nothing happens. He realizes that he's hallucinating as quote-unquote Robert says that he's made his sacrifices worthless. When Oliver says he's not strong enough, Robert tells him that it's his responsibility. He apologizes for lying to Oliver for so many years about who he really was, and says that he loves him. The policemen pull up outside of the robbery. As Lucas and his men charge in, the Hood slips away into the shadows. We then go back to the fundraiser. Tommy watches Carter and Laurel dance. Thea, who is very drunk at this point, comes up and invites him to dance with her. Tommy realizes that she's flirting with him. He tells her that he thinks of her as a younger sister and not in any other way. But she says that Laurel doesn't understand him the way that she does. Thea then says that she's used to rejection from everyone, and Tommy is no exception. Tommy gets her out as she is starting to make a scene. Laurel notices and goes after them and finds Thea vomiting in the back alley. Tommy angrily tells her to go back to Carter, and Laurel says that she knows Carter is an ass, but he also made a big donation to the legal office, so she was dancing with him to kind of make good. Tommy then admits that he's not thinking straight about her and gets Thea into the car to take her home. As he starts to go, Laurel tells him that he owes her a dance and that he earned it. As they drive away, Thea asks Tommy to not hate her, and he assures her that he could never do anything of the sort. So what did you think of the robbery, and what did you think of this kind of party scene?
I mean, overall, it's a tragedy that I said it earlier that, obviously it's foreshadowing that there's going to be something goes amiss, and that's exactly what happens during the robbery. The dad gets shot by like a wayward friggin' guard that's just out there, you know what I mean? And it just kind of stinks. And it's not even the police that shoot him; it's a friggin' guard, which sucks. So that kind of sucks. But then, you have that whole realization from the dad. I feel like does Oliver kind of shows his face. So are we going to reset the tracker here? Because I feel like the dad, at least I'm assuming the dad would realize that he's Oliver, but maybe not. I don't know. What do you think?
I thought about that, but he dies, so I say we're
gonna let it go. Okay. But other than that, I mean, I think that
I think we should keep it to people who could communicate that he's somebody else. Obviously he realizes who it is, but then he passes away, so he can't expose him. I think we need to keep it to people that
could expose him,
people that could later tell other people that he exists.
I will allow it.
Or it's Oliver actively being hey, I'm the Hood, hey, I'm the Green Arrow, hey, so stuff like that.
Right. But other than that, I mean, that scene kind of went very, very basic as the way it would go, I would think. And then obviously with the Thea trying to make a move on Tommy, it's just really weird. I'm glad Tommy was at least a stand-up guy and didn't kiss her or do anything, because that would have been gross. I mean, like he said, he goes, I look at you as my little sister, because he's grown up with Oliver. So that was good that kind of stopped where it needed to stop. And then just the, Laurel realizing that he is a good guy and that he is a decent dude and that he was taking care of Thea because she was sick was nice, and admitting that what's his name was a douchebag, and that's fine. But overall, just good stuff altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a good episode for Tommy, I would say. Mm-hmm. But we go to the Quiver once again. Oliver is brooding in the dark when Diggle arrives. Diggle assures him that what happened wasn't his fault, but Oliver isn't convinced. Diggle tells him that Robert would be honored by what Oliver did for Derek, and asks if Oliver believes that there's more than one way to save Starling City. Oliver isn't so sure, and Diggle tells him that Stan came out of the coma and will make a full recovery. Oliver wakes up on the island in a hunger-based delirium and prepares to burn another page of his father's journal. As he holds it up to the flame, invisible ink pops up on the page, and we see some names on it. Looking through the journal, Oliver realizes there are dozens of names, all wealthy people that control Starling City. He promises to his father that he'll live up to his responsibility. Mm-hmm. We then go back to present day. He comes home. He finds Moira pouring herself another drink. She apologizes for what she said earlier and admits that she's just been lonely since Walter left. When Moira points out that Oliver has been distant, he says that he misses her and invites her to a late dinner at a diner for some burgers. They go to Carly's burger joint and they order some hamburgers. Moira prepares to eat with a fork and knife, and Oliver tells her that it's okay to get her hands dirty every once in a while. She eats it and says that's an absolutely awesome burger, and assures Oliver that Carter doesn't know what Oliver knows about finding the best burger in town. And she then tells him that he is better than Carter in every which way. So that kind of wraps up the episode. But what do you think of this kind of sweet scene at the end, as well as Oliver and Nichols' conversation?
It's a nice moment. It's funny him saying you can get your hands dirty. How ironic is that? As we clearly know, she's gotten her hands dirty. But this is just a good scene altogether. It's kind of one of these nice scenes where I don't think Oliver gets a ton of nice moments with his family. And they get fewer and farther between, I feel like, as the show goes on, as the show progresses. So this was a nice moment for him to just reconnect with his mother, because again, she's making the point where she says when you were younger, we used to always be together and that kind of thing. So I like this altogether. It was good.
Yeah. A sweet scene for sure between mama and son. Diggle kind of making him feel and reassuring him that
yes,
they may not always do things the right way, and it might not always end the way that they want it to, but they're doing good things. They saved the city from obviously this gang of robbers, and unfortunately one of them ended up passing away, but they did kind of make the cop that got shots. He obviously comes out of the coma in this situation, but they kind of, make good for him.
I thought we were going to get a Kyle Reston, you have failed the city, but we didn't. He just shouts Kyle Reston. So.
Yeah, I think he has held the failed the city to only people in the book. It seems.
Yeah, I know, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't think that at first. I thought he really just said it every episode, honestly. So, but before we get to some ratings of the episode, I have some obviously like trivia, like always. This is the first episode of the series to not feature Quentin Lance. He is absent from this episode. We still, all the other regular main cast have been in every episode so far. This episode marks the first time that Oliver Queen, when he's the Hood, shows up during the day. He usually operates at night, although in the scene he is in a dark area that is able to hide him somewhat in the darkness. You mentioned that the Royal Flush Gang had kind of appeared in some comics and stuff like that. They had actually made 6 other animated appearances in some cartoons throughout the years with DC. You mentioned the thing about Simon Stagg earlier. You mentioned the Coast City kind of thing earlier with the Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. At CNRI, Laurel asked where Tommy will take her this time, suggesting Monte Carlo. And that is actually a movie that Katie Cassidy appeared in as well. So that was a kind of a nod to that. I mentioned the Dr. Oz part. And this episode marks Emily Bett Rickards' first appearance since she was promoted to a recurring role for the remainder of season 1, after being credited in the co-starring bill in the end for 2 episodes under the name just Emily Rickards. So she is officially a main cast, or kind of a recurring cast member at least. But just a few little trivia notes there before we get to some rating. What would you rate this episode out of 10?
I'm gonna go with like a 6. I think it's a good episode, but it's a little bit better than just a straight up mid episode. But I do think it's pretty good. But yeah, I'm just gonna say 6. I think there's not a lot that happens. There's not a ton of action sequences on here, and there's good character development, but not like anything majorly massive here. So I'll go solid 6.
Yeah, I was thinking 6 as well. It doesn't really push too much of a plot for like the rest of the season across too much or anything like that. The bank robbery scene was a good fight, but there wasn't really too much to it at the same time. Kind of just explored some character relationships and stuff like that throughout this one. So not as action heavy as maybe some of the better episodes would be. So, but I would also go 6 for sure. So. I'll pass it on to you now for episode number 7.
Alrighty, so we are going to start off with this is episode number 7. It's called Muse of Fire. So as we start off, Muse of Fire kid. So we start off here. Oliver is on a motorcycle. He gets a call for lunch with his mother from Thea, who basically tells him, "Don't stand her up this time, Oliver. Just do it." So we then cut to Moira Queen, who is walking out of Queen Consolidated with a gentleman who is trying to, convince her to sign a deal with his company. And we find out that this man's name is Kopani, and that he is working. We find out later Paul Kopani. We find out who later he's working for. Ollie shows up and is waiting to talk to his mother when all of a sudden another motorcyclist shows up, who then opens fire on both Paul Kopani and Moira Queen, but only hits Paul Kopani, and Moira falls down and hits the ground. Oliver checks on her real quickly and then immediately leaves and flees on foot to chase the motorcyclist through the city. He does end up picking up a piece of rebar from a dumpster and hits the back of the bike. But the motorcyclist gets away. We then cut to Moira being in the hospital, who is told she has a concussion. Oliver comes in and apologizes and ends up getting scolded for it because she's like, "What did you think? You were going to run this person down?" He goes, oh, well, I was trying to get the license plate. And okay. So he comes out and he sees Thea, and he says that they have a bit of a conversation. And Thea tells Oliver that he's not a good hero, to which he replies, that's cute. Then again, Thea calls out Oliver for constantly lying about what he's doing to the family. And to which Oliver kind of just, broods about that. We then see Quentin Lance, who comes in and says that the guy that Moira was with was a mobbed up, and that she was not the target. So we get that. So then we have Tommy showing up to Laurel's with food. Also, at the same time, a delivery man is there with is it mushroom and onion pizza, I believe?
It's mushroom and something. I can't remember.
Something, yeah. Mushroom and olive, excuse me.
Olive, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And but he's like, this just happened to be.
That sounds awful, by the way. Ugh.
It's not terrible. I've had mushroom and olive before. It's not terrible, but whatever. That's that's me. I also don't mind pineapple on my pizza, so I'm a weirdo. But he does say, I showed up. It's just a coincidence we showed up together. But he basically comes in and he asks Laura out on a date. He wants to take her out on a date and actually, try to make something of this work. What did you think of these first couple of scenes? The chase scene on foot, the motorcycle chase scene, as well as the confrontation he has with Thea in the hospital wing, and then Tommy trying to make an honest woman out of Laurel. What'd you think?
Yeah, obviously, Tommy and Laurel have been on again, off again, so he wants to be completely on and keep it that way. He wants them to go on dates and have a relationship and all that good stuff. So he's continuing the full court press there. Yeah, obviously, we immediately start with some action with the motorcyclist coming in and shooting Kapani. Obviously, Moira is tied up in the crossfires and stuff like that. She doesn't get hit. I think they kind of oversell that she's like bedridden and like all that kind of jazz throughout the rest of the episode.
She had concussion protocol,
Obviously, yeah, she probably did hit her head a little bit, but they do kind of oversell her quote unquote injuries throughout the rest of this for sure. But yeah, we get right back like we kind of talked about in the last episode. Thea immediately calls out Oliver on his bullshit. He says you weren't running to get the license plate or whatever. You were trying to play hero, and that's just not who you are at this point. So, but then yeah, like you said, Lance kind of tells him that Moira obviously wasn't the target, and this had some ties to the mob. So we'll kind of see the mob issues continue to tie in the rest of the episode.
Yeah. All right. So then we go to the quiver. Thank you again, Logan, for referencing that. Where Oliver explains to Diggle that Paul Capani, who works for Frank Bertinelli Construction, and Frank Bertinelli is a mob boss. So Oliver is going to go undercover to kind of see who's behind this whole thing altogether. He is going to protect his family, and he says this to Diggle. He says, I'm going to protect my family, and when I find out who the assassin is, he's a dead man. And he says it very aggressively. We then cut to the assassin, or the helmeted person who is the motorcyclist, and they pull off and we see a corkboard with a bunch of faces on it, and the cyclist crosses off Paul Capani's face, and as the cyclist pulls off the helmet, it is revealed to be a woman. So I guess Ollie was wrong about the gender on this. So shame, Ollie. If this was this day, you'd be canceled, but if this was today, you'd be canceled for gender bending there. But then Oliver is running out because he's going to this meeting to be undercover. And at the same time, Thea shows up looking dapper as always to go out as well. And he kind of says, can you please stay with their mom? For some bizarre reason, Tommy shows up. I don't know why Tommy showed up. It wasn't like Oliver, he was driving Oliver anywhere. He just shows up randomly. But then he does check on, he says, oh, I heard about your mother. Is she okay? And of course he says, all right. Tommy then tells Oliver that he is going to go out to dinner with Laurel and take her on a date. And he just wants Oliver to hear that from him before he hears it from anybody else. Oliver immediately says, that's great, man. I'm really happy for you. But then he does say that if he hurts Laurel, he'll snap Tommy's neck. Just kidding. We then go to Oliver showing up at Frank Bertinelli's house, where he then sees and he catches a glimpse of a woman who happens to be the assassin. We still don't know who she is yet, but she's in the house as well, kind of upstairs. She's looking beautiful as well, so Oliver notices that. We then quickly cut to Thea, who's sitting in bed with her mother watching TV or figuring out what they're going to watch on television. And they start talking about Oliver's secrets and how angry Thea is that he's keeping secrets. Moira then tells Thea that all people have secrets. And then Moira recalls the day that Oliver came home and she saw the doctor and said that he's not going to be the man that left when he's not the man that left to go on the boat. He's a different person now. So she basically says to Thea, and this is where I was mentioning in the last episode, that we need to stop judging Oliver for who he was and start accepting him for who he is. To which Thea kind of quietly agrees with that statement. What did you think of this, where we get the quick little kind of we get the discussion that he has with Diggle in the Quiver about the Frank Bertinelli's mob ties, and then also Oliver kind of having that quick conversation with Tommy about Laurel, and then of course him. We'll skip to him seeing the assassin woman, but then the conversation that Thea is having with their mother.
Yeah, obviously, where do we dig into the kind of head boss, or seemingly the head boss of the mob, Frank Bertinelli, played by Coach O'Ryan from Mighty Ducks 3. I don't know the actor's name, but I know that's what I recognized him from. I immediately laughed when I saw him. But I kind of get introduced into him, who he is, kind of that he's the head boss of whatever mafia or mob that's happening.
Mafia. Not to interrupt you and go on a tangent, but what was Mighty Ducks 3 about?
So they go to some like private high school in Minnesota, and they're the junior varsity team, and they face the varsity team, and they try to decide if they're going to keep the mascot that they had before, if they're going to be the Ducks. And the junior varsity team wins, and they end up being the Ducks. So, and the actor that plays Bertinelli, he's kind of like a hard-nosed coach that replaces Bombay, because Bombay takes some kind of corporate job or something like that. So,
okay.
There you go.
There you go.
But yeah, I immediately recognized the woman when she took the helmet off as a character that we'll see going forward. Spoilers. But I definitely recognized her when that first happened. So I'm happy to see that she's already in the show. And yeah, we have the conversation that we kind of alluded to between Moira and Thea. Obviously, it's good that they kind of put this out in the air that maybe Oliver will open up to them eventually, but they need to be okay with maybe him not opening up to them about everything that happened to him and all that kind of stuff, and giving him the benefit of the doubt more often than not. And I really did like that Oliver is like, I'll snap your neck if you hurt Laurel or anything like that. I did like that little quip from him. So, but yeah, definitely interesting to learn about Bertinelli and his kind of enterprise. And Oliver's going to try to kind of take it out from the inside. We'll see.
Alrighty, so then we go to the meeting between Frank and Oliver, where they're talking about business, and we find out that basically Frank Bertinelli wants the contract with Queen Consolidated to do all their construction work. That was the meeting that Moira was having with Paul Capani, and Oliver says basically he's considering it and agreeing with it, which is great. The mystery woman comes in and is introduced as Helena Bertinelli, or Helena Bertinelli, Frank's daughter. Frank leaves and asks Helena Frank is quickly told he has to leave, and he asks Helena to take Oliver out for dinner.
Helena.
He asks Helena to take her out for dinner. She decides that she will take one for the family kind of thing, help out the family. We then cut to where Bertinelli is meeting with China White, who makes an appearance again, who says that the Triads are not responsible for the hits to his family. We find out Quentin and Detective Hilton are actually listening in on this meeting, and they're speculating who is in fact responsible for these hits. And in fact, they are not a pro. So somebody is just kind of taking out the family members here, and they don't know who it is, but they know that it's not a professional hitman. We then go to the wonderful dinner at Russo's, where Oliver and Helena are at dinner, and they're talking about their family and their family's legacies. Really nice conversation between the two. Basically, they're opening up to each other and being real honest about their issues that they have with their family. Helena then asks Oliver if he's ever wanted to just get away from it, and then if in fact he does kind of miss being on the island and being away from that family life. We then, for a minute there, I thought Laurel and Tommy were at the same restaurant, but they're not. They're in an Indian restaurant.
It did kind of look like it for sure.
Well, then the way they cut to it, I was like, are they just on the other side of the on the other side of the restaurant? But Laurel and Tommy are at this Indian restaurant where Tommy is having difficulty eating the Indian food because of the spice level. But he must not be a big fan of Koval units, but that's okay. But he does start to reminisce.
Not a big Ghost Peppa fan.
No, not a Ghost Peppa kid. But he does like curry. Anyway, so Tommy starts reminiscing kind of about their past and wishes that they could have started all over again. And that this is kind of how he wanted things to start between them instead of kind of doing everything half backwards. At that point, Tommy's credit card gets declined. And he says to the waiter, can you run it a couple of times? You know how finicky those credit cards are. And then the waiter says, actually, they told us to take it and confiscate it from you. So kind of leave Tommy's left hanging there. And, when it's funny because we go back to Oliver and Helena, and Ollie gets a phone call, and I thought it was Tommy asking him to spot him some cash.
Hey, can you Venmo me?
Can you send me some cash, bro? But
can you cash at me, Ollie?
Can you cash at me, Ollie, please? So we go back to Oliver, and they're continuing their conversation where he notices her cross that she has, her crucifix, and she says that this was from her fiance. And he says, "Oh, you're engaged?" And she says, "I was." So then, and they talk a lot about just like the crucible that they have to carry, and really kind of just putting a lot of emphasis on this legacy conversation. It's funny, the previous episode was called Legacies. I feel like this could have been Legacy Part 2, actually called, because of how much they're talking about their families and what the dirty deeds their families have done over the past. Diggle then calls Oliver and he tells him to leave because he's found out that there's going to be it is Frank Bertinelli's enforcer, Nick Salvati, who's going to start making all the collections. He's calling in all the debts for the family, trying to find out who it is that's betraying them. And he says that you got to get out of there because that's the next hit. And Oliver kind of says that he's been on a date and that he actually has been enjoying this date that's been forced. And he does say that to Helena, where he says, I'm really happy that we kind of got forced to be on this together. And she agrees, so did I. We now get a visit from the mystery man that we've been seeing the last couple episodes, who shows up to visit Moira at her house and talks about her future in Starling City. And he wants to know about her convictions and whether or not she still has the convictions to continue on with this grand plan that they have. She says that she does, and he confirmed that I didn't need you to say it. I saw it in your eyes. So what did you think about this all together? We had this conversation about the meeting at the Bertinelli's house, the quick conversation he has with China White. We have Oliver and Helena's total date that takes place at Russo's. And also Laurel and Tommy's date at the Indian restaurant. And then finally we have the mystery man showing up, confirming to Moira that he wants to make sure that she's still on board with whatever thing they're going to be doing for the city.
Yeah, I'll go back to the first scene. Obviously, like you said, Frank kind of wants the building contract for the new Applied Sciences building that Queen Consolidated's kind of got going. He wants to be involved in that. And yeah, Helena's kind of reluctant. Obviously feels like she's kind of being pimped out. She calls Oliver the rich man's Lindsay Lohan.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a pretty timely reference. But obviously he's trying to get her to like woo him and kind of get on his good side. So he'll agree to kind of, do business with them. And obviously they can, have connections going forward and stuff like that. The China White thing was, it seems important. And we'll see kind of if it goes anywhere.
It's a glorified.
But it's just kind of a way to kind of remind you that she exists out there. Frank obviously says, if anything is coming from your side, I'm coming for you, and you're gonna die, and I'm gonna kill all of you and stuff like that. If it comes to that, obviously she kind of says the same thing back. Like you said, the cops are kind of listening in on the exchange, so they don't even really know what's going on either. Who's on the bad guy in the situation, who did the killing. But yeah, Helena and Oliver really kind of open up with each other. It's nice for both of them to have somebody that they don't really know, but they also have a lot of similarities, that they're from these families that are very well off and very wealthy and stuff like that. But they have a lot of demons, and like there's a dark side to kind of both of them a little bit, and they're just able to kind of freely talk about it there. It's kind of funny that Oliver's like, it kind of felt free to be on the island a little bit, and admits that there's sometimes that he kind of wishes he was back there. And then we have the Tommy and Laurel situation. Tommy says he wishes that this was like their first date, and this is kind of like right after they first met and all that kind of stuff. And like you said, kind of doesn't do the whole relationship thing ass backwards. Obviously, he has been cut off financially due to his card getting declined. So we'll dive more into that later. Helena says that she was engaged, talks about her fiance a little bit, and then Oliver has the dip. We then have the mystery man come to visit Moira, and kind of doesn't seem like he feels very bad for her, that she's obviously in this medical situation, and he just kind of digs at her and says, oh hey, you're still in with the plan, you haven't lost your conviction with our plan and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, some good scenes. I really like the conversations that Oliver and Helena had with each other. And I thought it was good to kind of see them open up about both of their kind of lives and ways that they would do things differently and stuff like that.
All right, excellent. So now we get the big scene here where, like I said, Diggle had called Oliver about Bertinelli's enforcer, Nick Savati, who's about to start a ruckus at Russo's. He shows up looking for payment, and the ruckus starts up. The Hood shows up immediately and starts fighting the group, but the assassin also shows up, the masked assassin, or the helmeted assassin. Oliver and her end up fighting, where he pulls off her helmet and reveals that she is Helena Bertinelli. She flees, and Diggle and Oliver start to try to deduce why she is attacking her own family. Quentin is now looking at footage of the battle taking place at Russo's, and he notices Oliver's at the restaurant. He kind of gets the guy out of the way, the forensic guy out of the way, and he goes, "Who is that?" He zooms in, he sees Oliver, and we start to think that, he's up to his old shenanigans again. He then shows up at the Queen household, and he tells Oliver, he says, "I saw you were at dinner at Russo's," and Oliver says, "Yes." And he goes, "And your hooded friend showed up right afterwards." He goes, "Yes, I was at dinner." And he actually says, "I need to warn you to stay away from Helena. She's a bad girl, or a bad seed, or she's involved with bad things." And Oliver kind of says, "Are you doing this to help me?" And he goes, "Well, I messed up a while ago, and I need to make amends for that." So he takes that advice, and whatever happens. We then get a scene where the mystery man is fencing, and Tommy shows up and says, "Dad." And so we don't really know. I guess we don't know just yet that it's the mystery man, because he doesn't take his mask off, and then we see him. But as soon as he takes his fencing helmet off, we see that it is the same guy that Moira has been talking to. So we know that he's Malcolm Merlin. So that's an introduction to him. He doesn't say his name Malcolm, but we know it's Mr. Merlin at the very least. He tells Tommy that he is basically a joke, and that he cut him off because he's just sick and tired of Tommy being a nobody. And he says something about all the money and Tommy says, "Well, that was money in my trust fund." And he says, "It was your money, but it's now my money, or rather it's my money," and that he's cut him off for good. Oliver then follows Helena to a cemetery where she is kneeling in front of a grave. We find out that it's her fiance, and her fiance's name is Michael Staten. Michael Staten. Staten.
I think it's Staten, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Staten. She finds out that they have a conversation about her and her fiance, and how the love never really dies, and that eventually it turns into hate, and that the hate needs to be pointed at something. She basically then warns Oliver to stay away from her. At that point, they are abducted by Nikki Salvati, who shows up and keeps them captive. She warns, my father will not stand for this. And Nikki says, oh, really? He goes, well, your father is the one that told her that her fiance was a rat, told him that his fiance was a rat, and basically ordered him to be killed, to which Nikki then says, I was the one that killed him. And she confesses that it wasn't her fiance, Michael Staten, that was the rat. She was the rat. And he then says, basically, I'm going to make you pay for that, and I'm going to shoot you in the chest just like this. Or he shot him in the chest just like this. And he goes to shoot her in the chest, at which point Oliver breaks out of his restraints. He's zip-tied, and he begins to fight both hitmen, to which Helena gets out, and she starts fighting Nikki. So we have Oliver fighting the other hitman. She's fighting Nikki. Both of them, I think Oliver basically knocks him out and breaks his neck, although they did say that he did break his neck. But she does. She breaks Nikki's neck. At one point, I almost thought she was going to rip his throat out, but then she just broke his neck. And basically, Oliver turns to look at her and says, Helena. And she said, I didn't have a choice, Ollie. No one can know my secret. So we get that. Quentin and Detective Hilton are basically lost as to who's killing Nikki and his partner, but they're hoping that Frank Bertinelli doesn't believe that it's the Triads because there'll be a war on the streets. We then get Tommy arriving at Laurel's and tells her that he's lost all his money, his car, his apartment, he's basically got nothing else. She then says to him and comforts him and basically says he will be all right. We then see Walter coming home and tells Moira that he missed his wife and that he was already en route to coming home when he found out from Thea that she had been involved in that attack early on. Thea then apologizes to Ollie and talks to him that it's okay to keep his secrets, but he really should tell somebody. And then Oliver then shows up at Helena's, and basically she says, I know who you are. And they have a discussion about really like the difference between their vigilantism, so to speak, and their missions, and that, you know, there's no real difference, which he says there is, and she says there isn't. But then they do talk about how it felt good to actually be with people who they didn't have to lie to and cover up anything, and that it would feel good to tell the truth. And then they kiss as we fade to black. So that's kind of the wrap up of that episode. What did you think of the final segment? So basically, we got the whole fight sequence. We got Quentin looking at we get the fight sequence at the restaurant. We get Tommy having the discussion with his father, finding out that Malcolm Merlyn, who he is, and then basically the conversation at the cemetery, the fighting in the warehouse where they were being held captive, and then the ending with we'll just say the three main couples here: Tommy and Laura, Walter and Moira, and then Oliver and Helena and their discussion.
Yeah, it was good to see that Oliver finally got some poon on the side of the island. So he ends things with getting with old Helena. So it was good to see that for sure. Obviously they kind of team up at the restaurant to kind of ward off Nick from doing too much at the restaurant. Obviously Oliver kind of wants to know why Helena's kind of targeting her own family. Obviously, it's for good reasons. Obviously, her husband got killed. It was good to see Quentin kind of tell Oliver and kind of warn him that, he didn't want to get involved in this whole mob business because, bad things happen when people get involved in that kind of stuff. And it was kind of Quentin paying him back for, saving him a couple of times, helping him out a couple of times, even though he still hates him in the long run. We finally do meet Mr. Merlyn. Like you said, again, we still don't learn that his name is Malcolm. But obviously me and you know that, having watched this before. He calls Tommy a joke that is no longer funny and a chronic irresponsibility and terminal laziness. He says that he has both of those things. So that was pretty brutal. Delivery from he is absolutely cerebral in the scene. He has no care in the world for his son, and is immediately just telling him, you are worthless, and I don't even want to call you my son and stuff like that. So yeah, very, very cerebral in that scene for sure. They obviously get nabbed. Oliver and Helena are both able to escape the restraints that they're in, fight off the bad guys, and I don't care what you say. Oliver broke one dude's neck, and Helena broke the other dude's neck. They both killed both of the guys because both absolutely did the little crunch, front face lock kind of move. So he may give her shit about killing the one guy, but he absolutely killed the other guy, whether he wants to admit it or not. But
Yeah.
I thought this fight scene was pretty cool. It was cool to see him have like a teammate that kind of fight two kind of big bads off. So that was pretty cool. Like you said, the cops kind of look at it. They don't think the Hood was involved because there was no arrows, and this is kind of how he kind of goes about his business. But obviously they're worried that obviously the Triads and the mob are about to start World War III in Starling City. So that's definitely a worry. Obviously, like you said, Tommy confides in Laurel, says all of his stuff has been frozen. He has no money, no car, and no place to live. So we'll see where he ends up. Walter comes back. He just kind of has a conversation and says he still loves his wife despite all that's happened recently. Thea apologizes, like you said. It's good to see her kind of understanding that maybe Oliver doesn't want to open up, and that he'll come to her and tell her when he wants to. And then, like I said, good to see Oliver get some
much needed action.
Much needed action this side of the island. So we'll see how long their relationship lasts. Obviously, probably not very long, but she is a good character. We will see her a few times in the future, I believe. So we shall see.
Alrighty, so with that, I do want to talk about a couple of things here. Originally, the Huntress was actually the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, which is Batman and Catwoman. That is not this character at all. This is a different Huntress. Helena Bertinelli. She's been kind of an anti-heroine, in DC Comics. She's been around for a long time. She's a Sicilian American who has been in Batgirl. She's been in Batman. She's been in Nightwing. She's a member of the Justice League at one point. Birds of Prey. She's been part of the Batman family, Justice League, Outsiders. She's worked with Barbara Gordon, Black Canary, Dick Grayson. So, she's a master of martial arts and she's a markswoman and proficiency in a range of weaponries, including a crossbow. She's been played another time as well, live action, in the Harley Quinn, or I guess it's, the Unbelievable...
the Birds movie.
Yeah, it was Birds of Prey, or and it was Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which was a sequel that came out in 2020. She's played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead in that, but kind of the same story, so to speak. In this case, she's played by the actress Jessica DeGao, who I don't really know if I know her really from anything else. Really nothing else that I know. Apparently, she's been a working actress. She's in one episode of The Queen. I don't know if you watched The Queen. I don't think you watched The Queen. But I'm trying to think of anything that she's been in extensively. I feel like nothing that I've watched. She's in this a few times, in Arrow. But great character altogether. I mean, very excited when you see her show up, because if you've read anything about DC and you've read Huntress in the past, you're like, oh yeah,